Bobby Heenan was far more than just a manager. He was the master architect behind the careers of wrestling's most colossal figures. Icons such as Andre the Giant, the magnificent Paul Orndorff, and the flawless Mr. Perfect all ascended to greatness under his shrewd guidance. However, merely crafting champions was never enough for his vast ambition. He masterfully transitioned to the broadcast desk to join Gorilla Monsoon, and their legendary partnership would go on to forever revolutionize the art of wrestling commentary. However, in the year 2002, Bobby was forced to confront an opponent more formidable than any he'd ever faced in the ring. This final, harrowing battle would not only signal the end of his celebrated career, but would tragically and ultimately claim his very life. Before we explore that heartbreaking conclusion, we must first journey back to his origins, to November 1st, 1944, the day Raymond Louis Heenan was born. From the very beginning, the world of professional wrestling seemed to be encoded in Bobby's DNA. He divided his youth between the tough, working-class streets of Chicago and Indianapolis, and it was in that environment that he discovered his calling. At the remarkably young age of 17, he immersed himself in the industry, eagerly accepting any job he could get at the local promotions. Whether he was hauling the gear bags for the established wrestlers or selling snacks and drinks to the roaring crowds, the observant young Bobby was absorbing every single aspect of the business, truly learning the profession from the absolute ground floor. For a significant 13-year span, from 1961 until 1974, Heenan was a key figure at the World Wrestling Association. Throughout this period, he adeptly performed dual roles, competing as both an in-ring wrestler and a ringside manager. He first gained significant notoriety for his exceptional work with the feared tag team known as the Blackjacks. In fact, many observers credit Heenan's masterful ringside interference and venomous microphone skills as the essential ingredients that elevated Blackjack Lanza into one of the most reviled heels of his time. In 1974, following a contentious dispute over his pay, Heenan parted ways with the company and took his considerable talents to a competing wrestling organization known as the AWA. This career move would prove to be a monumental turning point, as several defining events occurred there that would permanently shape his public persona. It was during his time in the AWA that he first adopted his legendary nickname, Bobby the Brain, while his rivals simultaneously began derisively calling him the Weasel in an attempt to get under his skin. While making his mark in the AWA, Heenan's managerial prowess led the team of Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens to the pinnacle of tag team wrestling, guiding them to the Tag Team Championship. He also assembled the very first version of his famous stable of wrestlers, which he dubbed the Heenan family. This initial group was a formidable collection of talent that included Bockwinkel, Stevens, the intimidating Blackjack Lanza, and Bobby Duncombe Jr. In 1970, Heenan's career took him on a brief but fateful detour to Georgia Championship Wrestling. While there, he encountered a charismatic young wrestler brimming with potential, a man named Hulk Hogan. Heenan instantly recognized the extraordinary spark in Hogan and immediately placed a call to Vern Gagne at the AWA, emphatically urging him to sign the future icon without delay. Heenan possessed an unshakable conviction that Hogan was destined for superstardom, a prediction that would prove to be spectacularly correct. Heenan's tenure in Georgia lasted less than a single year before he eventually made his way back to the AWA. His boss at the time, Ole Anderson, had unceremoniously terminated his employment, directly breaking a personal promise he had made to Heenan for a lifetime job. The betrayal was made exponentially more painful by the fact that Heenan had relocated his entire family to the area, based solely on that now broken assurance. Upon returning to the AWA, Heenan found himself in a deeply ironic twist of fate, as he resumed managing Nick Bockwinkel, who was now locked in a bitter feud with the very same Hulk Hogan that Heenan himself had discovered. In 1983, during a demanding wrestling tour of Japan, Heenan suffered a severe and painful neck injury. Incredibly, he was unable to undergo surgery to repair the damage until 1995, a delay of over a decade caused by a lack of proper health insurance. This significant injury would severely impact his physical abilities, creating immense difficulty for him any time he stepped into the ring for the rest of his career. In 1984, Heenan made the jump to the WWF, the promotion where he would achieve his greatest fame. He immediately made an impact by managing Big John Studd in his feud against Andre the Giant, even appearing in Studd's corner at the history-making first-ever WrestleMania. Shortly after his arrival, Heenan unleashed a brand new and more dangerous version of his managerial stable, the Heenan family, on the Federation. This collection of elite talent expanded over time to include a veritable who's who of wrestling legends, including Rick Rude, Andre the Giant, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, King Kong Bundy, Paul Orndorff, Buddy Rose, Mr. Perfect, and the great Harley Race. In the WWF of that era, if you were a top-tier villain, you absolutely needed the unparalleled microphone skills of Bobby Heenan in your corner. During the mid-1980s, the primary focus of Heenan and his entire group was their relentless war against the champion, Hulk Hogan. Heenan was the mastermind behind two monumental challenges, unleashing King Kong Bundy against Hogan at WrestleMania 2 and Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Although Heenan's main function in the WWF was as a manager, he would still occasionally shed his jacket and compete as an active wrestler. His most notable in-ring achievement came at WrestleMania 4, where he teamed with the Islanders to score a major victory over the British Bulldogs and Koko B. Ware. The very next year at WrestleMania 5, his luck took a sharp downturn when he was defeated in a humiliatingly quick 30-second match by the Red Rooster. He also engaged in a memorable series of matches with the Ultimate Warrior, where the loser was forced to wear a full-body weasel costume. Heenan was almost always the one who ended up suffering that particular indignity. The animosity between Heenan and the Ultimate Warrior was completely genuine. At WrestleMania 5, a body slam from the Warrior was delivered with such force that it legitimately injured Heenan, who forever after considered Warrior to be a reckless and dangerous performer. Years down the line, the Warrior made some truly reprehensible public comments regarding Heenan, remarks so vile that I refuse to dignify them by repeating them here. It seems the contemporary WWE has conveniently chosen to overlook the many awful things the Warrior said during that time. In 1991, Heenan transitioned away from being a full-time manager, only to be drawn back into the role by the monumental arrival of Ric Flair in the WWF. Among the dozens of wrestlers Heenan worked with, his partnership with Flair is widely considered his masterpiece, with his time managing Rick Rude a very close second. When Flair first entered the WWF landscape, Heenan performed a truly incredible feat of promotion, flawlessly establishing him in the eyes of the fans as the real world's champion. He was relentless in his praise of Flair's greatness, and the strategy worked to perfection. When looking back at his WWF legacy, it's clear Heenan was instrumental in helping a multitude of wrestlers achieve championship success. He expertly guided both Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude to reigns as the Intercontinental Champion. He also applied his strategic genius to the tag team division, leading two different teams, the Brainbusters and the duo of Andre the Giant and Haku, to become World Tag Team Champions. While simultaneously managing his extensive stable of wrestlers, Heenan began a second, equally legendary career as a television color commentator. Vince McMahon made a brilliant move by positioning Heenan behind a microphone, giving his razor-sharp wit and magnetic personality a national stage on which to shine. Heenan's genius wasn't limited to helping his wrestlers cheat and managing his family. He was an absolute prodigy on commentary as well. He consistently and hilariously threw all of his support behind the villains. Children watching at home desperately hoped someone would finally shut him up. But adults can now appreciate with hindsight just how extraordinarily witty and entertaining he truly was. Heenan took over Jesse Ventura's commentary position on two popular shows, Primetime Wrestling and All-American Wrestling, which led to him working alongside Gorilla Monsoon. The on-air chemistry between Heenan and Monsoon was nothing short of perfection. Monsoon was the consummate professional, focusing seriously on the in-ring action, while Heenan served as the perfect comedic foil, relentlessly telling jokes and championing the bad guys. Their dynamic just clicked in a magical way that improved every segment they hosted. While many fans champion the team of JR and Jerry the King Lawler as the greatest broadcast duo ever, Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon represent a truly special and iconic partnership that is in a class all its own. Their banter was so entertaining that fans would tune in just to hear them interact, which was a huge asset on shows where many of the matches involved unknown wrestlers losing to established superstars. Heenan crafted his own unique vocabulary for describing the world around him. He condescendingly referred to the fans in attendance as humanoids, and mockingly dismissed enhancement talent as ham and eggers. He would cheer with glee whenever a villain cheated to win, and would harshly criticize the heroes for their integrity. Whenever his antics pushed things too far, Gorilla would inevitably bellow his iconic catchphrase, "Will you stop?" Their constant, entertaining bickering was an absolute highlight for viewers. For anyone wanting to see Bobby Heenan in his prime, the WWE Network is a treasure trove of hilarious content, with Primetime Wrestling being a standout example of his genius. His captivating entertainment skills were so undeniable that he was eventually given his very own program, fittingly named The Bobby Heenan Show. Hunting down episodes of it online is an effort that absolutely pays off for any fan. Following his departure from the WWF, Heenan made a significant career move by signing on with their primary competitor, WCW. Interestingly, his original intention was to step away from the wrestling world entirely, but WCW presented him with an enticing offer that included full health insurance and a much lighter schedule, which was persuasive enough to keep him in the business. His final appearance for the WWF took place on the December 6, 1993 edition of Monday Night Raw, and the conclusion of the broadcast was nothing short of poetic. In a memorable send-off, Gorilla Monsoon, finally reaching his breaking point with Heenan's constant verbal jabs, physically ejected him from the arena, which served as the perfect curtain call for a beloved on-screen partnership that had brought laughter to millions of viewers. Behind the scenes, once the cameras stopped rolling, both Heenan and Monsoon returned to their hotel, where they shared tears, reflecting on the incredible journey and the cherished memories they had created together. While Bobby Heenan's tenure at WCW followed his WWF exit, his time there was marked by a moment of profound sadness with the passing of his dear friend Gorilla Monsoon on October 6, 1999. Despite the fact that Monsoon had never been employed by WCW, Heenan passionately insisted that the company formally announce his friend's death during their live broadcast. During the October 11th broadcast of WCW Nitro, Heenan, alongside his broadcast partner Tony Schiavone, informed the audience of Monsoon's passing, allowing Heenan to pay a heartfelt on-air tribute to his longtime friend. It was later revealed that Schiavone had been very reluctant to acknowledge Monsoon on the program, a discovery that created significant and lasting animosity from Heenan towards his colleague. Heenan's journey with WCW began when he took over for Jesse Ventura as the color commentator on WCW Saturday Night, eventually ascending to the role of the promotion's lead broadcast voice. In September of 1995, when WCW launched its flagship program, Monday Nitro, to directly challenge the WWF, Heenan was logically transitioned to become a key part of that new, high-profile show. At the 1996 Great American Bash event, fans saw Heenan make a brief but memorable return to his managerial roots, where he assisted his longtime allies, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, during their match against Steve McMichael and Kevin Green. Heenan was instrumental in a scheme that manipulated McMichael into betraying his tag team partner, Kevin Green, a turn of events that culminated in McMichael being inducted into the legendary faction known as the Four Horsemen. Even though this particular incarnation of the Horsemen was not at its peak, it was still a genuine thrill for audiences to witness the Brain back in his element as a manager. A truly seismic shift occurred in the wrestling landscape in mid-1996 when Hulk Hogan stunned the entire world by turning his back on the fans, embracing a villainous persona, and joining the notorious NWO. In a fascinating twist, Heenan, who had relentlessly criticized Hogan for years as a fraud, was suddenly, and ironically, cast as a heroic figure on television. He repeatedly proclaimed to the audience, "I told you so," constantly reminding them that his negative assessment of Hogan had been accurate all along. He clearly relished the opportunity to broadcast that he had seen Hogan's true character years before it was revealed to the public. During WCW's annual Hog Wild events, held at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, there were persistent reports that Heenan arrived inebriated for his commentary duties. Eric Bischoff was aware that Heenan would sometimes have a couple of drinks before a show, a practice more accepted in that era. But the larger issue was that Heenan, much like the majority of the talent, felt completely out of place amidst the raucous biker culture. His primary coping mechanism for the overwhelming and unpleasant environment was to indulge in a few more drinks than usual, just to navigate the chaotic atmosphere. Eric Bischoff articulated the situation perfectly. Heenan was accustomed to fine hotels and quality dining, but the Sturgis rally trapped him in a chaotic environment with 250,000 roaring motorcycles from dawn until deep into the night. He found no sanctuary, as there was no quiet or clean place to escape the constant noise and the sweltering heat. The entire ordeal deeply affected Heenan, a man who thrived in more civilized and comfortable settings. By January of 2000, WCW made the decision to remove Heenan from his commentary position on both Monday Nitro and their pay-per-view events, appointing Mark Madden as his replacement. Although he continued to provide commentary for their secondary show, Thunder, for a brief period, he was ultimately relieved of those duties as well. By November of 2000, his employment with WCW was terminated completely. In the years that followed, Heenan became very candid about his experience there, specifically stating his profound dislike for working alongside Tony Schiavone. The friction between them was so intense that Heenan was convinced Schiavone was personally responsible for Mark Madden taking over his role on Nitro. Heenan certainly didn't hold back his feelings about his miserable time in WCW once he was gone. He publicly discussed the myriad of issues he had with the promotion in numerous interviews, and provided an even more detailed and scathing account in his autobiography. He held a strong and unwavering conviction that WCW was fundamentally mismanaged from the top down, and he never shied away from voicing that opinion loudly and clearly. Heenan himself described the WCW atmosphere as being like a city of the undead, where professional communication was non-existent and genuine camaraderie among the employees was completely absent. He was of the opinion that exceptionally skilled performers such as Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero were never given a legitimate opportunity to shine because Eric Bischoff favored featuring established older stars from rival organizations. In Heenan's final assessment, the vast majority of the people in positions of power at WCW were utterly incompetent and lacked a basic understanding of the wrestling business. On April 1, 2001, Heenan made a celebrated one-night return to the WWF, reuniting with his close friend Mean Gene Okerlund to provide commentary for a special attraction match at WrestleMania 17. Then, in the year 2002, Bobby Heenan was confronted with what would undoubtedly become the most formidable and terrifying battle of his entire life. During a period when he should have been peacefully enjoying his well-earned retirement from the wrestling industry, he received a devastating diagnosis from his doctors. Cancer had been discovered at the base of his tongue. This was far from a minor health concern. The malignancy had already metastasized aggressively to his lymph nodes, escalating the situation to a much more perilous level. However, embodying the same resilience he had instilled in countless wrestlers, never to retreat from a confrontation, Heenan met this life-threatening illness with extraordinary bravery and resolve. The medical regimen he was forced to undergo was exceptionally grueling and took an immense physical and emotional toll on his body. Surgeons had to surgically remove a portion of his tongue, an ordeal that would have been deeply traumatic on its own, yet it was merely the start of his fight. Following this, Heenan was required to endure 35 separate, punishing radiation treatments. Every single radiation session felt like stepping into the ring against a new, unforgiving adversary, each one systematically chipping away at both his physical strength and his unwavering spirit. These prolonged medical battles exacted a severe price on the man that legions of fans had come to know and adore. His weight plummeted significantly as the painful side effects of the treatments made the simple act of eating incredibly difficult. Perhaps the most tragic consequence for a man celebrated for his rapid-fire wit and sharp commentary was the permanent alteration of his voice. That iconic, unmistakable instrument of entertainment that had delighted millions was now forever changed. An ordeal of this magnitude would have shattered the resolve of most individuals, but it was not enough to break the indomitable and courageous spirit of Bobby Heenan. Rather than retreating from the spotlight, Heenan made a point to continue making public appearances whenever his health permitted. When his treatments caused his hair to fall out, he simply donned a bandana and carried on without missing a beat. In a fitting tribute, the company recognized his monumental contributions by inducting him into their Hall of Fame in 2004. His acceptance speech was a profoundly emotional moment, powerful enough to move even the most stoic individuals to tears. And it resonated deeply with fans who had followed his career for decades. It is an absolute must-watch piece of wrestling history for anyone who can find it. Heenan remained deeply involved in the wrestling world, graciously helping induct several of his former colleagues into the Hall of Fame, including Paul Orndorff, the Blackjacks, and the great Nick Bockwinkel. Although his cancer went into remission by 2004, the aggressive treatments had irrevocably altered him. He had lost a significant amount of weight, and the iconic, sharp voice that fans knew so well was now forever changed. Then, in December of 2009, he found himself hospitalized once again. A brand new infection had taken root in his jaw, necessitating another grueling round of intensive medical care. It felt like a cruel cycle. For every small victory, he was pushed back 2 giant steps. Despite his relentless fighting spirit, his body was becoming exhausted from the ceaseless medical onslaught. But an even more formidable chapter of his struggle was just on the horizon. By the year 2010, the cumulative effect of years spent battling cancer, undergoing numerous surgeries, and fighting off infections had inflicted a severe toll on Heenan's physical well-being. He began to experience profound issues with his balance and overall strength, which tragically led to a series of catastrophic falls. The initial major fall occurred at his residence in 2010, and the consequences were absolutely devastating. He fractured his hip, shoulder, and pelvis, all in a single incident. For a man already weakened by so many other health crises, these injuries were exceptionally perilous. Just as he was beginning the arduous process of recovery from this traumatic event, misfortune struck once more in 2014, when another fall resulted in a broken shoulder. The very body that had once been robust enough to share a ring with the giants of wrestling was now systematically failing him. The most severe blow came in 2016 when he fell again, breaking his hip for a second painful time. Every subsequent fall appeared to chip away at his independence and diminish what little strength he had left. For his loved ones, witnessing this steady and painful decline was an agonizing experience. The personality who had always seemed larger than life, a man who could effortlessly command an entire arena's attention just by his presence, was now grappling with the simple act of moving. These accidents were doing more than just breaking his bones. They were systematically chipping away at the spirit of one of wrestling's most indomitable figures. On September 17, 2017, Bobby Heenan passed away at the age of 72 due to organ failure. It was legendary announcer Jim Ross who first broke the news of Heenan's passing to the world, sharing this sad announcement via Twitter. Throughout his final years, even as his escalating health issues sought to confine him, Bobby Heenan never stopped connecting with the legions of fans who adored him. Whenever his health allowed, he made his way to wrestling conventions and fan gatherings, regaling attendees with timeless stories and making them laugh with the same sharp wit he always possessed. Remarkably, he also summoned the energy to author 2 books, offering his fanbase a much deeper and more personal look into his extraordinary career and the countless memories he had created over the decades. Today, when people reflect on the legacy of Bobby the Brain Heenan, they remember a man of unparalleled talent who could truly do it all. He was far more than just a legendary manager, though he certainly defined that role for an entire generation. He wasn't merely a masterful commentator, though he absolutely set the gold standard for all who would follow him in that profession. He was an utterly unique personality, a special kind of performer who could infuriate you one moment and have you roaring with laughter the next. Even as audiences were showering him with boos at the highest possible volume, there was a secret admiration. They cherished every single second of his performance. The narrative of Bobby Heenan's life resembles a dramatic roller coaster, marked by spectacular highs of achievement and heartbreaking lows of personal struggle. From the absolute pinnacles of his professional life, guiding legendary wrestlers to victory, crafting unforgettable commentary, and earning his place in the Hall of Fame, to the deepest valleys of his health battles, he confronted every challenge with an incredible and unwavering spirit. His profound impact on the world of professional wrestling remains palpable today, many years after his time in the spotlight. The grace and humor with which Heenan navigated both his triumphs and his tribulations offers a powerful lesson about life itself. He demonstrated that one can maintain a sense of humor amid immense adversity, find strength when the body is failing, and continue to fight relentlessly when the odds seem insurmountable. His life story ultimately transcends the wrestling ring. It is a testament to facing life's greatest obstacles with unwavering courage and profound character. While Bobby Heenan is no longer with us, his enduring legacy persists in every clever quip from a modern commentator, in the antics of every manager trying to bend the rules, and in the cherished memories of millions of fans who either adored him or delighted in despising him. Ultimately, he proved that life's most significant victories aren't always won inside a squared circle, but are found in the way we confront our daily struggles with dignity, resilience, and unwavering determination. For more incredible narratives about the legends of wrestling, be sure to click that subscribe button and activate your notifications so you don't miss a thing. There is a vast library of untold stories and incredible sagas waiting to be shared. And we would be honored if you joined us in keeping the memories of these icons alive. Until we meet again for our next feature, let's remember Bobby the Brain Heenan, a true one-of-a-kind legend who proved that in the larger-than-life world of professional wrestling, intellect could be just as formidable as brute strength.